1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've been live for 5 seconds.
All right. Hello,
I thought you were saying-
everyone, and welcome back to D&D&D&D&D, campaign number 2 of Black Ink and Blue Blood. When we last left off with the dysfunctional, I couldn't even muster semi-functional party of nobles. The party had arrived under the protective banner of the bandit kingdom of Tebedra to the summer ball, which will be beginning as of this moment in 2 days. The party arrived and began various levels of investigation. Lucian questioned some of the locals, and the party as a whole checked out some of the local thoroughfare from the under construction festival to coincide with the ball, while Zephyr headed to the mansion where the nobility and those in power are staying to do some personal investigation, meeting and making a deal with the mysterious elvish gentleman, Dr. Wattson. Heading away with his newfound debt and little information to show for it, Zephyr reunited with the group, and the group headed back into Nortwix to settle down for the night. With that, before I forget, of course, Lucian, you saw the mysterious cloaked scythe-wielding figure across the rooftop from the inn, but as quickly as you see them, there's a flash of light, and they vanish. So, as all of you are settled into your bedrooms, is there anything any of you would like to do before the sun rises?
Yes. So after I see the figure, I will put on put on some clothes and then go outside. And I'd like to go to where I think Gil's room is.
Oh, okay.
All right. Easy enough to do. You guys arrived at the same time, so unless Gil went out of his way to hide which room he was staying in, I can't imagine that'd be difficult. So you arrive at his door. Gil, as you're getting ready for your personal agenda, you hear a knock at your bedroom door.
I will. Is there like a little peephole in the door so I can look out?
No, not on the inside of the inn.
Okay, I will crack the door open a little bit to see who it is.
All right. You see Lucian standing there, just fully garbed up.
Can I help you?
Can I come in?
Insight check, if I might. She never does this.
Fair. Go ahead. Go for it.
That was a natural fucking 20.
All right. Just for posterity, I'll say, Lucian, make me a deception check to just see if you can hide hide the kind of tells of your intentions.
I got the natural 2.
Yeah. Lucian, what is your
she's
yeah.
like, her weight is shifting on her feet, and she's kind of fidgety in her fingers, and maybe like a little bit of sweat coming from her brow. Please.
Gil's gonna think to himself, hey, I didn't think she liked me that much, but
natural 20 for insight, but natural 1 on wisdom.
Well, we already knew that.
Are you gonna let me in?
You open the door all the way and let you in.
Lucian, I'm going to start pacing the floor. Okay. I don't like. Okay, you already know that I don't like you, but
Obviously.
let me finish, please. You know how we were in Perha and I told you about my brother? Or rather, you guessed.
Yeah.
I saw him like less than a minute ago.
Where?
He was outside my window.
Your window.
Yes.
Yeah, that too.
Interesting.
And she's gonna like pace again. What if. I mean, I know I haven't really been that careful, but like. I don't know, like, I feel like he's following me.
Well,
He
can
was
you
definitely.
blame them?
I mean, can you blame him?
Well, you just have this way about you where either they're going to follow you because they like you or they're going to follow you because they want to kill you.
Let's just say that it is not good that he's here.
Well, the last time you mentioned it, we had a bunch of zombies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know if I told you anything about my family, but I come from a family of necromancers.
Yeah, I already knew that.
Okay. Well, you know, my brother, he tends to take things a little too far.
As family usually does.
I'm trying to be serious, Gil.
I'm aware.
You said that you would help me.
Well, there's got to be something for me to actually hit for me to help you.
Look. And she just takes a minute. Looks like she's struggling a little bit. I don't want to ask this, but can you sleep on the floor in my room, please?
Ooh.
Yeah, sure. I'll be over there in about 20 minutes, maybe.
Oh.
I got a few things to do real quick. I'll knock when I come.
She'll just nod and nervously go back to her room and just pace the floor.
All right.
How rude.
Okay, Gil. Lucian nervously leaves you in the privacy of your room. What would you like to do for the next 20 minutes?
Well, I'm gonna wait 10,
Oh.
and then I'm gonna go outside Zephyr's room. And what do I hear? Does he sound like he's asleep? Is there any movement?
Okay. Zephyr, it's been in total, about a half hour since you came into the inn and checked into your room. Are you heading down for sleep, or are you doing anything?
I'm trying to think, like, if we have any night plans. I can't really think of any, but guessing he's gotta learn some night plans, but he will go to bed.
Okay. Gil, make a perception check.
23.
Okay. You listen closely, and just barely through the light wooden door, you can hear the slow, steady breathing of someone asleep.
Okay, I would like to take my dagger and see if I can't pick the lock of the door.
Okay. Make me a just general dexterity check with disadvantage.
Okay, first one's a 17. That's not bad. And the second one was a natural 20.
All right. Having gotten used to your improvised lockpicks, and the indoors are not particularly, they're not exactly made against forced intrusion. You are able to get the lock open easily enough, and gently push the door open. And you see Zephyr's dark room with Zephyr himself asleep on the bed.
Okay, I want to quietly, I do mean quietly,
hmm
Yeah.
start looking around, trying to find his little stash of gold.
Okay. Uh, um, I'll say, make me a stealth check and yeah, just a stealth check. I was debating whether to give you advantage or not because he's asleep, but then I was like, well, nah, wouldn't.
But that's a 17 on stealth.
Okay. Zephyr, I'm going to take a wild guess and say that that does not beat your passive perception.
But yeah, I wasn't asleep, so I guess not. It beats, or it beats my, or I think it beats my passive perception.
I figured. So,
Beats it by 1.
okay. So, Gil, you are able to quietly look around the room. You managed to avoid them creaky floorboards or anything that would cause, you managed to avoid that that twig that will snap and wake the kobold up. Make me an investigation check to see if you can find Zephyr's belongings, because the room, I know you have dark vision, but the room is dark and you're trying to be slow and quiet. So,
Same time
I just want to
fast,
say
you have
something
10 minutes.
real quick.
what's up?
You said that twig on the floor. Lorcan would keep the place too clean. There wouldn't be any twigs.
No, yeah. That's why, that's why I said like that, like imaginary twig on the floor.
21.
All right. After a bit of searching, you managed to find Zephyr's pack with his belongings, kind of placed on top of it so that he can, in the morning, easily retrieve them and re-equip them. And it is there for you to rifle through, should you wish.
Okay, I'm just a pouch.
One more time, sorry, you just get a little spotty.
I'm just looking for his money pouch.
Okay.
Any of his other belongings would be too suspicious.
Fair enough. Okay.
Like the money pouch gone isn't
It's
suspicious.
like somehow you somehow made a bunch of money isn't suspicious, and I lost a bunch of money.
All right. Because you already rolled good investigation, you rifle through just some daggers and thieving equipment and various objects before you find the small satchel of gold you had seen him with.
So, can I get a rough idea of how much is in there?
I'll say, make me an investigation check, and Zephyr, message me privately how much money you have in that pouch.
Yeah, I know. Well, man, wait,
Oof.
ouch, is he having?
Believe it's just one of the small ones.
I mean, I know there's multiple, to be honest.
Well, I only got an 8 on that one.
Okay. Um, yeah. Just waiting for Austin to send it to me.
Oh, well,
While this is going on, Lucian is just pacing and
yeah, like he's
She
leaving
like okay. I
one girl
keep on
behind.
looking out the window to see if like maybe I can see him.
looking around. You do not see any other mysterious figures from your past.
That just makes her worry even more.
All right, Gil, you kind of give it a very cautious like shift to kind of get an idea. Based on weight alone, you can't really tell exactly how much is in it because you're not exactly like rattling it because you don't want to wake him up. But it does feel pretty hefty.
So I'm going to quietly open it and maybe take about a rough estimate of half.
Overestimate a half.
And put his,
Do you know how much is half there?
and put his. I want to guess.
All right. Well, what's your guess?
I don't know. I'm just going based on what I think.
Yeah.
My character.
Here, for the sake, since again you're like doing this stealthily in a hurry, and it's going to be difficult to get exactly half. I'll say make me a sleight of hand check, but I'll give you advantage since you've already like gotten it open and like you're kind of taking your time. So I'll give you sleight of hand, but with advantage.
15.
All right. You snag a fistful of the gold from the pouch and just pocket it, and I'm gonna guess you put the rest back.
And I want to put his stuff back the way it was, so it
Okay.
doesn't look like it's been tampered with at all.
All right. Okay, easy enough to do. All right.
I'm going to quietly go back out.
All right, make me another
and
stealth check.
relock it.
Come on, fail this. I have plans. I already made like a list of plans to do for you to use.
I know that, Phil.
I don't like that. Like,
Then
All right.
10.
I'll tell you what, Zephyr, because you are asleep, make me a perception check with disadvantage.
all right. Dice. Ooh. Knocked over Deadpool a little bit. Should have clicked a little space here, but either way. Disadvantage. That's 21 and then 21.
All right, nice. Gil, you creep across the floor and pull on the door, and as you're starting to pull the door open, it gives a slight, like that very slight creak, and you see Zephyr's ears flick slightly in his sleep. And Zephyr, you're kind of just coming out of unconsciousness, but you can feel that like hairs on the back of your neck tingling of you're not alone. Your father has trained you for this.
I'm going to quickly Misty Step into the hallway.
Does Misty
Right in
Step
front
have
of my-
verbal?
right in-
What components are
No.
involved in Misty
I
Step?
think it's just he has it because it's his race.
if it has the V on it, it has verbal.
It does have a verbal command.
All right.
So I will
So
just whisper this underneath my breath, just so I can get out of there.
okay. But bear in mind, Zephyr did get a 21 with disadvantage on perception. Gil, seeing that Zephyr's starting to shift a bit in his sleep, you quickly mumble the spell commands, and Misty. I'm just gonna say, I'm assuming like further into the inn, just away.
Back to my room.
Well,
much.
Okay.
Well, you can't see a room, but yeah, basically in the hallway, and then you're gonna go to your room.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So you Misty Step, vanishing and reappearing in the hallway and just booking it towards your room. Zephyr, as you're open, as you immediately, like, again, your father's trained you for this, your eyes shoot open and everything's kind of blurry as you're like immediately putting yourself into like fighting off an assassin mode. But as you're like waking yourself up, you hear a very distinct gruff voice whispering a spell, and as you look around, the room is empty and the door shuts on its own with a
Does Raccoon hear any of this? Like, especially with Gil tromping down the hallway?
Yeah, right. I was going to
He's not that
ask
trouble,
too.
right?
Compared to her, it's tromping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say both of you make perception checks if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I'll give you that.
Lucian definitely is waiting for you.
Mhm.
That is a 16, and I don't have my modifiers up.
Okay.
What's
Uh,
your
I'm
wisdom?
rolling. Hold on.
Mhm.
Not so good. 10.
Lucian, you're just too busy like glancing out the window and pacing to really notice it, pay it too much mind. But Raccoon, as you're getting ready for bed, you're wearing just the most adorable goblinic little PJs. Your ears kind of flick as you hear just going down the hall above you.
It's probably one of Lucian's old nightshirts.
Aw.
It like drags the floor on her.
Yes.
The sleeves are like rolled up all the way up to like her elbows, but they're like sewn like that because
Oh,
otherwise
that's
they're
adorable!
very
I love
large.
it.
She probably isn't wearing her cap at this point, and she, hearing this, just her ears kind of perk, and she's like, "The fuck in the world is this?"
You just take out a broom and start poking into the ceiling.
She's too short for that. She'd have to stand on the bed and on the dresser on top of the bed. She's gonna go and see out of curiosity what the hell's going on, because this isn't, considering it's an inn, she's worked here for a while, this probably isn't the first time someone's been sneaking around, and
Yeah,
she's
that's fair.
had to catch someone before.
I'll give you that. All right, so you start making your way up, but in the meantime, Zephyr, you manage to kind of clear your head, and you are alone in the room. The door is closed, but you definitely heard a voice mumbling a spell, and there was, and you just know there was someone in here with you. The door obviously didn't open by itself, and someone muttered a spell and then closed. You know.
Well, first, I would like to check around the room, make sure nothing is off.
Okay, make me an investigation check.
6.
Everything seems in its place. Your belongings, as far as you can tell, are untouched, and not exactly any holes in the wall.
All right. With this in mind, knowing that someone was in here, but of course they've already left, and frankly, chasing after them could be pain since I don't know exactly who they are
Mm.
or now. But I will then proceed to go and lock the door
Okay.
and make sure my stuff, or like I'm gonna move my stuff into like a secure location.
I'll say you like move it like. I'll say you like prop it up against the headboard and then move the pillow against that. So you're basically like, using your pack of belongings as as kind of extra padding for your pillow. All right. Anything else you'd like to do?
I will go to bed and
Okay.
I'll worry about it tomorrow.
Fair enough. All right. So you hop back into bed and just try and relax and get back to sleep. In the meanwhile, Raccoon, you arrive, and at a quick cursory glance, all the doors are closed. Nothing seems to be amiss.
Okay, do I hear Lucian pacing around in her room?
Lucian, I'm assuming you're not exactly going out of your way to be quiet about it.
Oh,
So yeah, they're not exactly like stomping, but you can definitely hear some like some boot steps coming from Lucian's room.
Out of curiosity and a little concern over her friend, she's gonna go and knock and say, "Hello, Lucian, are you okay in there?"
Lucian will go to the door and open it for Raccoon. I'm kind of having a rough night.
Oh, I heard some noises and I came to check.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be so loud. I just, when I think I have to pace, it's just a thing.
No, I don't think it was you. It was heavier footsteps, but I also heard you and I came to check on my friend.
Well, I was going to say at that point, can I come out of my room and say, "Oh, that was me. I had to go to the restroom."
Uh,
Do I believe him?
Well, I think
Well, it's not uncommon for people to have to go to the restroom.
Really, I think you'd roll deception and to base off their past.
yeah. So
insight.
yeah, here you would definitely roll deception. So Lucian roll insight, Gil roll deception.
That or their passive. Yeah.
Mhm.
If it will roll. Not so good. 8.
Okay.
13.
All right. Lucian, especially given as like you're not like in really a clear headspace, it seems like a believable enough cover story.
Can I roll against that?
Absolutely. Gil, you'll keep your roll, but Raccoon gets to roll.
That is a, what was it, perception?
Insight for you, because he
Insight, okay.
yeah.
I need to check my modifiers real quick. I don't know what my modifiers are
The
right
wisdom. Okay, proficiency, but it's your wisdom modifier.
now. No, I don't have my sheet up like a stupid right now. Let me get it up real quick. I apologies.
No worries.
Okay. The talk to you again. Something.
I appreciate you sending it, by the way. Thank you.
What?
Assuming you're referring to sending me the thing.
Yeah.
Give it a sec to load.
Loading my stuff. I have my character sheet on my main screen. OBS on the top and Discord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just saying, like, thanks for sending it to me.
Alright, so insight. Okay, that's 17.
Okay.
Modifier.
Raccoon looking up at Gil is confident as can be, but it's one of those it's one of those things of like someone stating like something like that to be absolute nonsense, but they are 100% confident. For one thing, you could hear that the footsteps had gone in only one direction because you immediately started making your way back up, going the opposite way from the bathroom.
And I was going to say, too, the rooms don't have chamber pots. They're outside.
Mm. So you he's confident, but that can't be the case.
She kind of like raises an eyebrow at him, squints and like hard enough that like her eyes just kind of like you can see them get like super closed. And she just like glares up at him for a second and she says, "I didn't see you come down the stairs when I came up. The chamber pots are outside. You didn't poop in a room, did you?"
No, I was checking the windows. Ask Lucy why I was checking the windows.
It's a long story. There is somebody here, I think, from my past, and he's not a very good person. And Gil has promised to keep me safe.
Oh, is it like someone that wants to come and hurt you? Do we need to wake Lorcan and get like a guard or something?
Well, he's really hard to find. He has to want to be seen.
But if there's people around, he won't come near you, wouldn't he?
I don't
That's what I'm
know.
for.
I don't know. He's very unpredictable, unfortunately. And Lucian is gonna. I assume there's like a desk or something in the room.
Yeah, there's like small little like mini studies of sorts.
Okay, so like she'll take
Actually
the
did it.
chair and turn it around and sit in it. Take a deep breath.
Can I,
I
ask?
don't.
Can I
Ye-
ask who the he is? I guess.
It's her brother.
I have a twin brother.
Oh,
Um.
there's someone with your face running around.
Yes. And probably he looks almost like me. I mean, elves, especially male and female, can be very identical, which is kind of unfortunate for
Especially
me.
male
Gil's
and
gonna raise his
female.
eyebrow at that one. Go. Okay, I'll go with it.
No, really. I mean, a lot of elves can look like very agender, like it's just a fact. And so and she's gonna kind of like rub
Yeah.
her forehead,
You
trying to
look like a
figure out how
woman
to
as
put
well.
this in the simplest way for for Raccoon. Long story short story now. My family, back in Wicked, um there was something that was bad that happened with my family, and my brother didn't take it very good. And he promised one day he would come and try to get me on his side or kill me.
Oh, that's not a very good thing for a brother to do.
He did a lot of bad things before he left. He is not a good person, and kind of feel bad for him because he was fine until mother died. And then when mother died, and she just kind of goes quiet.
I don't like him. He sounds mean.
Yeah, that's
He
what I'm
wasn't
hearing.
mean when we were children. I mean, we got along pretty well. I mean, we've been through hell and back. I mean, our father was not the greatest of persons, which is probably where he gets it from.
She kind of winces at that and she goes, "Oh,
Lucian just kind of fidgets with her fingers, and it's very obvious on her face that she's not really used to opening up to people.
Either
Look,
way, Lucian, may I come in?
yes, but you sleep on the floor.
He's actually, uh, he wants to stand in front of the window, looking out. And this little trick he's learned from the military, where he actually can sleep while standing.
All right, I'll allow that. Okay. So you're just gonna keep watch through the night.
Yep.
Okay.
Just I want to sleep just for the 4 hours.
Okay.
I asked Gil
That's
to
required, and then I'll be awake.
yeah, I asked Gil to be here with me because I really don't want to be alone right now. I haven't really been careful like I should be, but it's hard for a person like me.
oh,
Don't worry, we'll help you.
could I? Can I maybe hug you?"
If you would want to.
She's going to like step in and like give her leg a hug,
Well,
She's
and
gonna
like
you got yourself a thumbnail.
she like she
You
pats
roll for luck
I
for
pat her
quality of the
some mood.
Lucian tries to hug back.
I like pat her leg for a moment and says, "Well, you have us now. If you want, I can also stay up and help. I'm used to like having the night shifts here and keeping the air out for baddies."
Yes, and that would be very helpful. I can even describe him to you if you'd like.
And nod vigorously. Desperate small goblin wanting to make more friendly.
um, I don't have my notes with me.
So basically, Gil will tell her that this guy armor with a gold cape, wasn't it?
Yeah, red armor and a gold cloak wielding a scythe is what you heard from Perha.
I almost nailed it.
And yeah, yeah, Lucian, you pass on the description of your brother. Raccoon, I'll just keep in mind going forward that you now know at least Lucian's recollection of her brother's appearance.
And I got a quick with that from that little booklet I took from Perha.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, do I still have that on me?
Yeah, I don't recall you getting rid of it.
Did it mention the Goblin clan that it belonged to?
Yes. Here I have it written down.
Would Sip know that clan?
Well, I mean, you have the journal, so you would have to pass that
Yeah,
along and
talk
say.
us to Raccoon.
I'm just gonna ask if she happens to know the clan.
Well,
Okay.
I'm not gonna give the journal.
What
Okay.
clan is she supposed to know? Hey,
Yeah,
do
no,
you know
I got
Goblin
it.
Gang?
Raccoon, Gil asks if you know of Goblin Colony 1446. But while go ahead and make me a history check, but it is not the clan you're from.
No, definitely not. Oh, that's a straight 18.
You have heard of it. It's actually not too far from here. It's a bit ways north, a bit ways northwest of the city of Mercurial. You've heard of it, and you have occasionally met passerby goblins who come to the city for shelter from that colony, but you don't know a whole lot about the colony itself, and you're obviously not from there. You don't have enough that would give you anything specific. As far as you can tell, they were a fairly typical goblin colony.
Well, Gil's just gonna tell her, don't go back there. Bad things have happened there. It's no longer safe.
Bad things happen with a lot of goblin clans, especially lately. There's people that go and attack them thinking they're bandit encampments when it's just like homes for goblins that haven't done anything.
Well, sadly, I wish that was the only thing that happened, kiddo. Just don't go there.
I'm just following you guys. Unless you end up there, I probably would not. I don't really. I don't leave a lot. I like it here.
He's just gonna
And
pat her on the head and say, "Good job. Stay here with us."
All right.
yeah, and outside of
And
here,
he's
there's
gonna
places that
stay
don't like
watch.
goblins too.
Well, that's what you have us for. We like you. And if anybody has a
Alas.
problem with you, they have to talk to us.
I actually think this little goblin is gonna bring the best side of Gil out.
She does like that creepy little goblin grin.
All right. In that case, I will say, Gil, if Raccoon is going to be assisting in the watch keeping, you can either roll with advantage, or Raccoon, you can make a separate perception roll if you prefer.
Let me check my modifier.
What's your modifiers? Raccoon.
3.
Mine's a 5.
Let's see. Let me roll. That is a 16 plus 3.
Okay. And Gil, what'd you get? You do not get advantage since Raccoon rolled separately. So, okay. Both of you keep watch through the night while Lucian gets what restless rest they can get. And nothing particularly unusual occurs. You see the occasional odd passerby, but nothing that immediately jumps out to you, fitting the description you were given. Just orcs and the occasional ogre passing through the area, either coming to their own rooms in this inn or just passing through to their homes. And the night passes without incident. Because Lucian, as an elf, only needs 4 hours, I will say, Gil, you would still technically be able to get a full night's sleep. However, Raccoon, you will get a short rest, but not a long rest for
I was
this.
gonna say, will Raccoon be able to stay up for this whole thing?
I don't know. Let me roll for it.
Go for it.
Oh, and my dice went under the couch.
Knowing her,
Goodbye.
she's still
Where'd it go?
she'll fall
Where'd it go?
asleep.
Found it.
I just can't believe
Alright,
Gil
let me-
did it, and they fell for it.
Is a 17.
You're
yes,
able
she
to
manages.
Yeah, you're able to stay up. So yeah, you'll get a short rest, but not a long rest. So you get like a solid nap before the sun gets up and it's time to start the new day. And with that, the sun rises in various states of restlessness. Like almost all of you did not really get a good full night's sleep. Even Gil, a little on the stiff side from using your military strategy for sleep. You all head down to the tavern part of the inn for breakfast, just groggy and sore and just generally not. It is not like if somebody said good morning to you, the only answer would be it isn't.
It's definitely
Actually,
just
Raccoon would
surprising.
probably do like this really
Where-
long, drawn out, and like drag herself across the floor.
All right. So you three come down from your rooms. Raccoon, you emerge from your bedroom after a power nap. You guys see Raccoon just miserably dragging themselves towards you guys' kind of little usual spot you've started gathering at. And
Raccoon, would you like some tea?
You cut out.
would you like some tea?
like some tea?
Can Lorcan make coffee?
I didn't
Uh,
know if coffee was a thing.
That's why I'm asking. Is coffee a thing?
he does not have coffee. However, he can give you a fairly solid, essentially tea that will serve more or less the same function. Like its heat and flavor will wake you up.
Yeah. So she kind of winds her way, like literally just whining, as she heads over to like Lorcan. And is like, Lorcan, I did stupid, but I was trying to help a friend. May I have the wakey juice?
Sounds like the story of our life, dear. Sure. And he takes a moment to pour out a piping hot cup of tea. It smells. It smells pleasant, but it also has that kind of smoky, bitter tinge to it. But he hands it to you with a smile and says, "Be sure to give it some time before you gorge that down. Should I prepare the same for your friends?" And he kind of nods over to the table where everyone else has kind of like bags under the eyes, and just kind of you can see like a few of them already like kind of lazily, like kind of their eyes are drooping slightly.
Yes, with a bowl of fruit as well, please.
He smiles and gives you the okay hand.
And also, Raccoon does not listen to what Lorcan says and just literally takes one sniff and chugs it.
So I'll say
I
maybe a
was gonna
Constitution
ask,
save.
did you guys do that?
And what, Gil?
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure she's going to do that, but Gil's going to ask for like a platter of breakfast meat and some bread.
It was a natural 20.
Nice.
All right, you give a sniff, and you're like, yeah, this is really hot, but I got this. And you chug, and all like Lucian, you watch as this visibly steaming liquid just is all just practically thrown. Like almost throwing the teacup in with it, and Raccoon just closes their mouth, swallows, kind of taps their hands on the counter for a moment, and Raccoon, You feel much more awake, and the taste was actually rather pleasant.
Is she like
Very,
that
very
little
quick.
gremlin from Hotel Transylvania that goes, I didn't eat. I didn't do that.
Mm.
She'd be more like a goblin from the labyrinth.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I love him. So while Raccoon does that, Lucian's attention will shift over to Gil with a very serious face. Do we tell Zephyr?
No, he hasn't earned this privilege yet. I think
He doesn't. He doesn't.
It's just I thought that maybe we could. I don't know. It's just the last time. See, Raccoon. Last time my brother was seen, there was really bad things happened. He raised the dead.
and Zephyr was nowhere to be found. Apparently,
Zephyr
maybe
being the
in
piece of
the
shit
coffin.
that he is. You mean?
Yeah, and I'll say, speaking of which, Zephyr, sitting at the table, you're a little on the drowsy side after your startle last night, but you can see the other three just having a very open huddle, like deliberate, very, very overtly not including you and just whispering to each other.
Well, wait,
Alright.
he's already here. I thought we were still waiting on him.
Now, I said everyone came down and sat at your usual spot.
I had a full
Why
rest
are we
to pick
whispering without Zephyr?
Zephyr is a piece of shit.
I mean,
I mean, I would think
Granted.
a piece of shit is a piece of shit, but okay.
He betrayed us. He can't be trusted yet. Especially with something like this. This is very, very personal for me, and it's really hard for me to open up as it is. And then this bastard decides to do shit like this. No.
Is Zephyr listening?
Oh, a secret.
Oh.
Okay.
I was gonna say, Zephyr, you can try to listen in if you want, but like you can just see them like huddled and whispering, but not including you.
yeah, Zephyr doesn't care. He's just. He's just gonna be thinking
just
about
like-
the intruder last night.
Mm.
I'm just like,
The main thing that I am worried about, Gil, is something like what happened in Pura happened here.
Yeah, but he wasn't exactly much use. And even then, have we even seen a cemetery here yet?
I haven't really looked, but I mean, he could just kill a guy and then like raise him to dead. It's not hard. My brother has done worse things than murder.
Well, yeah. But just killing someone, people would notice if someone went missing.
Not necessarily.
This
with the
town,
fair going on, it'd be really hard to kill anybody. There's a lot of people everywhere.
and guards.
Well, all the more reason to cause trouble. Because, like, when we were in Perha, there was, a lot of people mourning, and, like, there was a lot of people there, and I don't know, it just seems like a big attraction to me.
Do you
Here,
do you
I
think he
got an
might be
idea.
do you think he might be planning to do something at the ball? It seems a little coincidental, don't you think?
I do. I would not be surprised if he was here to do something. That's why I'm worried. This as if he is here, the town is not safe. But I have no proof. I mean, I only saw him for like less than a minute. But I
So,
did see him.
Gil's gonna head over there towards Lorcan, and he's gonna ask, "Is there a graveyard or cemetery around here?"
You see Lorcan's expression kind of curl slightly, and he kind of looks around as if to make sure nobody's listening, and kind of gently like waves you to like lower your head as he leans forward on the counter to do the same. Do you lean down?
I do.
He kind of looks at you, and he kind of pointedly looks as if to make sure Raccoon's like engaged with Lucian and Zephyr to not pay much mind to what he's saying, and looks at you and says, it's not coincidence that you haven't noticed a graveyard here. Remember the types that inhabit this city. We eat our dead.
Oh, like it.
And what about
I
the
like it.
Oh,
This is why Lucian is a vegetarian.
I was not expecting that answer.
Me
Oh, I
neither,
saw
but I
what
like
kind
it.
what do y'all do with the bones?
He kind of taps his the side of his head in thought and says, to be clear, I am not necessarily involved in that sort of thing. Goes a bit against the grain. I
who
make
did-
sure to carefully check whatever meats I give to myself and Raccoon for obvious reasons. But from what little I know, once the meat has been dealt with, the bones are usually recycled to be tools or weapons.
Cool.
Interesting. Bone sword.
So should necromancer try to use these, it wouldn't work.
He kind of tilts his head to the side and smiles a bit, seeming a bit confused at the question, but
It's
says,
alarm stupid.
he nods. I'm sure it is. Sounds like my dear little girl's already gotten herself wrapped up in something rather exciting. But no, I'm not exactly a expert in the field, but to the best of my knowledge, the best something like that would give you would be floating swords or maybe the occasional ruptured stomach lining.
Floating swords.
Well then,
Army of floating swords.
I mean that last one could kill someone.
Gil's gonna go back to the table and in deep thought.
Well, what did he say?
No cemeteries.
Look, my brother can do more than, raise the dead. He set our whole town on fire. He killed
this
so
place
many
is
people.
mostly made out of stone.
Have you ever
Not
been to
stone.
Wicket?
Have I ever been to Wicket?
No, you're like you're almost you're like vertically speaking completely across the continent.
True. Okay. So, is that rhetorical?
A lot of things that I say to you are rhetorical. Sorry. She's gonna take a deep breath. I am just concerned about what is going to happen. I mean, we've got this bowl that's coming up that is very important, and we have a job to do, but I don't know if I can stay focused if I think that he is here.
Well, you must. And you must stay focused more than ever. All we do now, we just keep an extra eye out for whatever he may be trying to plan.
She just
That
stares
sounds like
at the
a good
table.
plan to me.
I just stare at the table.
Okay. Eventually, Lorcan brings breakfast, and he kind of looks over the state all of you are in and kind of adds in a few cups of the kind of invigorating tea and smiles and kind of places a hand on Raccoon's head. Just this once, free of charge. All of you look like you barely slept last night.
It is much appreciated. We
Gil will
really
take
had a hard night.
Gil will take one of his gold pieces out of his money pouch,
Mm-hmm.
flip it to Lorcan, and say, "You're running a business, not a charity work."
Can't I do both?
Yes, but I pay my debts.
He smiles and gives you a bow of the head. It is appreciated, thank you.
Mm.
And He starts to make his way back around and stops behind you, Zephyr. And he kind of pats you on the shoulder to get your attention. And as you look up at him, he kind of tilts his head to the side. Are you feeling all right?
I am feeling fine.
He kind of looks you up and down and gives a shrug. Suppose it's a little bit of leftover instinct. And he nods to Raccoon and says, but if you're ever not quite sure about how you're feeling, perhaps you should go see a doctor. And he kind of pats you on the head and heads off towards the bar.
He just likes to pat everyone on the head.
Zephyr's tiny, so it's the most convenient place to pat anyway.
Also, he's small, so automatically he's like, "Oh, other raccoon, hello."
Yeah, right. Like Zephyr's about like smaller than you and also a monster, so it's just like, ooh, child.
Small baby, must protect.
Oh,
Yeah, so
you could get bit, you know.
So
Zephyr,
Yes.
would you come here?
And just imagine
Well.
Zephyr just going, ugh.
Internally, he's doing that, but externally, he's just, kind of just whatever, and just gets up from his chair and goes over to Lucian. What do you need?
You seem to have an idea of what you think that we should be doing. We have a job that we need to do, but the ball is not for another 2 days.
1 or 2 days.
So in the meantime, what do you propose that we do?
What brought this all of a sudden?
Well,
yesterday we talked about
Yeah.
this. We said today was your turn
My
to
turn.
decide what we decide, what we do as a group to get our job done.
we don't like you, Zephyr, but maybe you could be useful.
Well,
Wow, that makes someone feel special, Lucian.
That's
I only tell the truth. I'm sorry that I, say things that you don't like.
It's still very mean.
it doesn't bother me. Frankly, I've already gotten used to it.
Same.
Frankly, I'm not sure right now. I'm a little sidetracked by a recent event.
What happened?
What did you do?
I did nothing.
I did none, yeah.
I do I believe him?
You want to roll insight?
Yes.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Both of you roll insight. Zephyr roll deception.
I'm not.
I mean, if you're planning to spill the beans anyway, then you don't have to. But yeah, if you're trying to actually convince them that nothing happened, then yes, roll deception.
Well, no, I'm saying I didn't do anything. You have to buy I did something. You didn't believe I didn't do anything.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll say deception, but with advantage because you're kind of telling a half truth.
Half truth. What do you mean? I didn't do anything.
I'm not rolling.
Well, no, because to be fair, you are keeping the information of what happened yesterday away from them.
I am rolling shit tonight.
We're talking about the information, but whatever. Yeah.
I rolled an 8.
Okay.
I'm rolling really bad tonight.
It's all right. Happens to the best of us. Gil?
And 18, I guess. No, not really. They're asking about a recent event.
Well, okay. So hang on. To be clear, I'm assuming what's happening here is they're asking because you said I'm distracted by recent events. They said what happened. You said nothing, even though something did happen.
Well, yeah,
And if you're trying to convince them of that, then that'd be a lie.
No, I'm not convincing that nothing happened.
Hang on. I think Jeremy lost connection. Just a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not telling like nothing happened. I just said I didn't do anything. Because last night I didn't do nothing.
Oh, okay. I know. I misunderstood. I thought you were referring to like your investigation yesterday, not the.
That's what we were asking about, was the
Yeah.
investigation.
Oh, I thought you were asking
Yeah,
about
that's why I got confused.
why I was distracted.
Okay, so sorry about Gil, you good?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. Zephyr seems completely honest.
I was just asking what happened. I didn't say what did he do. I was just trying to figure out what.
Well, no,
happened.
because he said I didn't do anything, and he seems to mean that.
But,
Hmm.
Lucian
Well,
asked
if
what
you
I
did
did because I didn't do nothing.
If you didn't do anything, then what happened?
Well, the event that that is distracting me a little bit is I seem to have had an unexpected guest last night.
What was
Lucian
that?
immediately shifts her eyes to Gil and narrows her eyes.
Oh. Yes.
Now, why are
Do
you
I see
looking at me?
Lucian? Yes, like, do I see Lucian? Do I see Lucian? Look
Why
at
do you
Gil?
think I am looking at you? You said 20 minutes. It doesn't take 20 minutes to grab a pillow.
I went to the restroom and looked at out all the windows because of your incident.
Didn't?
That's why it took me 20 minutes.
Oh, really?
You
Can I
never
insight?
go
Insight
into the
check.
I
bathroom.
want the insight.
Well, no,
You remember? You already know that he didn't go to the
Raccoon,
bathroom.
you already know that the bathroom part of the story, at the very least, was nonsense.
Yeah, but he
Lucian,
distracted
you
y'all.
believed him. Lucian, you believed him last night, but I will allow you to roll insight again. Gil, roll deception.
Natural 20.
Oh shit! All right,
Get wrecked.
20.
Gil. Huh?
20.
All right.
Got the 24.
Uh, so Lucian, you look at Gil, and Gil, similar to last night, is confident as can be. But as you just narrow your eyes and stare at him, you can see the slightest bead of sweat start to snake its way down his forehead.
Keeping my eyes narrowed at him. Bullshit.
I was like,
Yeah, get fucked.
There was shit involved.
that was.
I already said that there wasn't. I didn't see you go downstairs unless you actually shat in one of the rooms upstairs.
No, I tossed it out the window.
Oh yeah, that was his.
I
That
don't
is
believe you.
disgusting.
That is
You
one,
tossed
really
it.
gross. Like she said, that's really gross. And I really don't believe you. So what did you really do?
I did my business. And I couldn't find the toilet in time. And then, two, I looked out all the windows.
Up. No, you are lying, Gil.
Like,
Lorcan, we have
Oh.
a nasty bastard over here.
I knew it.
Well, did you clean your hands afterwards?
Yes.
Oh, with what? You didn't find the bathroom.
Bathrooms are outside.
There are water basins. I'm pretty sure there's a water basin in my bedroom. Is there not?
There is not.
We gotta put a second half of water basin.
You come downstairs and
You're
you get the mug.
Yeah, you're just like. Your story does not match,
Oh, come on.
and you're obviously lying.
Guess I'll look to Gil and be like, so was it you that was in my room?
No.
You did what?
Well,
Well, I mean, based off all the stuff that's been said.
I don't believe you. You said 20 minutes, and you are not
Yeah.
looking around for. And she pauses a second. You know who?
yeah, that part was real.
Maybe when you are already in my room, but not. No, you aren't.
He's not gonna say anything.
He's not gonna say anything.
Trouble.
Gil is gonna die on this hill.
I mean, if
Gil's in trouble.
Lucian's just gonna like cross
Who?
her arms and like glare. So either tell the truth of what you did. There is no or. Just tell the truth.
oh,
There is no or.
Oh no! How are we gonna get across the lake?
wow.
You're not.
Not the reaction I was expecting.
But
Tell the truth.
in too deep, yeah. He's in too deep.
Liar. You know, you better hope that I don't meet your dad.
Oh. Hmm.
Oh, my dad already doesn't like me, so why do you think he sent me away?
Or did you run away?
Oh.
There's no comments.
Zephyr, you watch as just all of this like familial insults are getting slung, and they're like like borderline about to assault each other. And little does anyone but Gil know it's over more or less pocket change.
I mean, depending on how much you got, yeah, decent amount.
Yeah, but yeah, pocket change in quotes, but the point stands.
Either way,
My head is just like going back and forth
After that
between.
Yeah,
last
Raccoon,
time,
you're just hooked on this and watching it like a tennis match.
Fucking drama.
After that last comment, he's just gonna. I didn't do anything, and he's just gonna walk out of the tavern. He needs to go clear his head, especially after that last comment about having run away.
Uh-oh.
Aw. Rip.
Yeah.
I'm not
Alright.
going to say I'm sorry.
I mean,
She's gonna
you would.
stab her fruit.
Like, he didn't even touch his tea. He didn't touch his breakfast.
All right.
Raccoon's gonna drink the rest of his
I
tea.
mean,
Yeah, Raccoon, you just.
She just. It's like so nasty sounding as she does it.
It is. It's a nightmare. All right.
hmm.
Zephyr, Lucy, and Raccoon, you finish your breakfast. Raccoon, you finish Gil's breakfast. Do you want to head outside as well?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, clear your head.
Zephyr, you didn't answer me to what you wanted to do.
Well, we kind of got into something there. It seemed like it went a little intense.
Lucian will like. I'll put my hands up, like, you know. I just see things how they are. It is not my fault if he has a. That's
has
a
a what?
Gil problem, not a Lucian problem.
Well, it's still curious as me to why he was thrown, but
Maybe he was really doing as you said. Maybe he was checking the windows.
checking the windows. Why would he do that? What reason would he check my window?
A reason that I'm not going to tell you because I don't trust you yet. You haven't given me a reason to trust you,
Well,
Zephyr.
I don't doubt
Actually, you've
that.
given me plenty of reasons not to trust you.
I understand that. It's simply it doesn't add up. But on to your question. It seems going to the manor won't, or going to the, I guess, is it a manor that they all live in?
Yeah.
The manor probably won't, obtain a lot of results, but
You were so adamant about it yesterday. What happened about that?
well, being that I wanted to get some stuff done, I went.
Oh, I see. So you didn't get the results that you wanted, so now you kind of backpedal, right?
Backpedal. I'm merely just going to look another location. What
You're
I found.
backpedaling.
How am I backpedaling?
You say so, Zephyr. But what did
I
you
don't
say
think
that you
you're
want us
moving
to?
back.
Well,
He's metaphorically going backwards.
I'm metaphorically going backwards. Simply that I went there. I got no. There wasn't much there that I found, and so I'm going to a new place.
There wasn't much that we found either. I mean,
Well,
we
where-
talked to people,
so
played chess with somebody who was really smart. You know, it surprised me he was in work. And, you know, he was really good. I liked him actually. But, you know, we didn't really get any results ourselves either. I mean, maybe they've set more stuff up for the carnival, but as I can see, there's really not much to do before the bowl.
as much as it frustrates me to say, but you may be right. Question is what to do now. I don't want to sit
Zeph.
here and waste my time.
I hate to tell you this, but I am always right.
I doubt that, but
If you don't even think I am right, I am right.
whatever helps you sleep at.
Keeping the window cracked a little bit and you know a light blanket.
You were so close. You were so close to having a moment.
Well, I simply think that it could be helpful to see what we are expecting of people.
I mean, like go to the carnival and see who's here. I mean, I'm sure there's more people coming even just now. I don't even know if I've seen anybody from where I am from.
Well, I don't know where he was from, but I did meet an elf last night.
You did?
Yeah.
What was his name?
Need some DM help.
Doctor. I was like Doctor something.
Dr. Wattson.
Yeah.
Dr. Bucker.
Questions.
Does that name seem familiar to me?
Well, Zephyr, do you tell her that name? Because I could hear you already asking, should I tell them?
You're not wrong. First, sure, I'll tell him. I'll tell him. Yeah, just from what he's told me, his name is Doctor Wattson.
Lucian, make me a history check, please.
23.
That is like you search your knowledge of both the history of your people and the history of elves in general. Nothing. The name does not ring a bell to you. You've heard the name and even doctors with that name, but none of them have been elves to your recollection. Raccoon, however, the name actually jumps out to you.
Shit.
Lorcan has mentioned occasionally seeing a doctor for just various health problems, and whenever you eventually asked for the doctor's name, that was the name he gave you.
What, Zephyr, what was his name again? To make sure.
As he told me, Doctor Watson.
That's the same name as Lorcan's doctor.
Um,
Whenever we're sick, that's the name of the one we go to see.
Is he like the doctor of the whole town?
I don't know. It's just the one that Lorcan takes us to.
well, yes,
You may want to ask him about it then.
I was thinking of that same thing.
Yes, let's
You
go
read
talk
my
to Lord.
We're
mind.
gonna walk outside. All right, let's just go back inside.
I go back inside.
All right. Okay. So, Gil, I know you're taking a walk to clear your head, but the three of you, what are you doing? Just so I know where everyone's going.
I mean,
I'm
Uh,
gonna go back inside and head towards the bar where Lorkin is.
Okay. Zephyr and Raccoon, I assume you follow?
yeah.
All right. As you approach, he smiles and leans forward and nods to you, Lucian, with a kind of somewhat guilty smile. Uh, Quite a spectacle there. Don't worry, nobody else was listening in. I'm just a bit of a gossip. Uh, give him a few minutes to clear his head, and I'm sure everything will be right as rain.
It is a very complicated situation, you know. I
Seems your
really
group is
should be
just full of
nicer
them.
to him.
He kind of smiles and says, yes, some people open up a bit better with kindness, and he gives you a smile and a nod, Raccoon. But there's also, unfortunately, some people who won't open up to that sort of thing, but doesn't mean it would hurt to try.
My mother always told me that I should be kind.
It's good advice.
It's sometimes hard when, you know, I feel more intelligent than the person I'm talking to.
He kind of
you must not get that
smiles and
very often.
he kind of like does like a half smile and says, "Well, you never know just how smart the other person is until they've already outsmarted you."
This is very true. Which, speaking of, I have a question.
Well, I just might have an answer, dear.
What do you know of Dr. Watson?
Uh, he smiles and says, "Oh, that's local Elvish doctor. Raccoon and I go to see him for any health problems either of us happen to have. Obviously, for someone like me," and he gestures to his very Elvish self. A bit hard to find quality medical treatment in a city full of giants and ogres. So I had to find one of my own. I mean, I'm not exactly the pinnacle of health, but I'm not on my deathbed yet. But after a few visits, he decided to stick around a bit and keep his operations local. And he nods to Raccoon. And a truly brilliant mind, he knows enough of xenobiology to make sure that my dear Raccoon is healthy and safe. You know, yearly physicals and checkups for colds, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Does he do the whole town or just you and Raccoon?
I know occasionally the other locals will see him for more advanced procedures, but as you can imagine, not exactly a popular sentiment to ask an elf to treat a giant's cold. So usually it would be local doctors and treatments, unless those treatments won't suffice, and then they find Dr. Watson.
Does he do unusual? Like you said, he does procedures. What does he do?
He kind of leans back and forth a bit, not like nervously per se, but just kind of like, kind of finding a way to phrase what he's thinking. I never really delved into his professional life. Seemed a bit, not exactly appropriate conversation, and I didn't want to intrude. He's a very private man, but I did once see, while taking Raccoon for her yearly physical, a ogre exiting with a prosthetic leg.
I would be very interested to talk to this man.
He smiles and says, "Well, if need be, I can always take you to his clinic."
Wow, that would be really great. I mean, just professionally, you know, my family is long line of, you know, medical and
Medical.
other procedures.
Uh, he
No,
he smiles and says, "Well, I know he's always on the lookout for brilliant minds to engage himself mentally. So I'm sure he'd be delighted to meet you, especially another one of his kin. Raccoon, dear,
Is Thorkin?
do you think that it would be possible for you to accompany your friends?" And he looks to you, Lucian. "I think you should, if you're. I'm assuming this is not a necessarily a checkup." And he kind of winks a bit.
I mean, I think I remember where it is from last time we went. It was what, last year? I didn't get sick this year, so that was a good.
He smiles and nods. Then I'll go on ahead and make sure that he's prepped for your arrival, or even in his clinic. And you all can meet me there. And he looks to you again, Lucian. In the meantime, your friend should have had enough time to cool off, so I suggest you grab him before heading there. I'm sure he'd be very interested to meet all of you. And he looks down to you, Raccoon. Besides, I need time to make sure that he has his lollipops prepped.
Yes,
Yes.
lollipops.
I think you're right. I think an apology. I think I overstepped my line.
He smiles and kind of waves a hand. We all step over lines from time to time. That's why we make sure to keep an eye on where they're drawn.
I'm gonna go find Gil.
And during all this, his walk, he decided he was actually going to go to the rooftops outside of the tavern
Okay.
to see if he could find where the rough area was where her brother was, where she saw her brother, to
Okay.
see if he can track her or track him.
Okay. I'll say make me an athletics check to see if you can get to the roof, because there's not exactly like gutters and ladders leading up to them generally. So go ahead and do that. See if you can get up there.
18.
Okay. So with a bit of clever parkour, you
Parkour.
Assassin's Creed your way up to the rooftop across the street, and make me a perception check, and you'll basically be just kind of doing a parkour scan of the surrounding area until you can try to ascertain where would be the best location uh, relative to the window.
Hardcore parkour.
Hardcore parkour.
14.
Okay. You work your way around to where you at least remember relative. Again, it's one of those kind of weird situations where you have to keep the relative direction and location of another area relative to your own in mind while trying to figure out, kind of triangulate it a bit. You do manage to narrow down the street that the house would have had to have been on, but looking at Nortwick's at a glance, it's a bit hard to tell exactly which window you recall being Lucian's, and which house exactly, because Lucian didn't tell you specifically which one, but you've managed to narrow it down to the street it would have had to have been on,
Well,
which
I'm
is
looking for like residue.
okay.
She mentioned
Uh,
the
Ew, that's
flash.
such a nasty word.
It
I'm,
is
I'm looking
Yeah.
for residue that might be left over from it.
okay. Make me an investigation check.
It's a nasty word. Residue.
That was a natural 20.
All right.
Yeah.
You very carefully and cautiously check the rooftops. Head to the next roof, check that one, and this process continues going down the street. Thankfully, it's very early in the morning, and you can see in the distance most of the townsfolk are gathered at Main Street again. So nobody pays you too much mind. Although you do have to kind of duck behind a chimney at one point. Whenever, as you jump off of one roof, you can hear the door open, and you hear the kind of babbling of a cranky old lady before the door slams. But you are confident you have checked every nook, cranny, and thatch. Nothing.
Hmm. He's just going to stay up there on the roofs.
Okay.
He actually finds it a bit peaceful up there.
Okay.
What does
So-
he see?
Looking around, you are currently facing the back part of Nortwick's. You see the expanse of Mercurial. You can see in the distance the gathering at Main Street, and you can actually see. You can't quite see over the wall, but you can see like the willow tree tops of the swamp village outside the city, and you can actually see a lot of movement going through it, likely from the next royal procession coming through. Uh, uh, and for the most part, it seems like everything is uh, um, fairly peaceful in the city.
Nothing out of the ordinary, though.
Not that you see. You can make a perception check if you want to be sure, but nothing immediately jumps out to you.
Yeah, he will.
Go ahead and roll that, but keep your roll in mind. Lucian, Zephyr, and Raccoon, what are you doing?
I would like to come out of the tavern and maybe walk around, look around for Gil.
Okay. Make me an investigation check. All right. Raccoon, Zephyr, you following behind?
Probably.
I've got a 15.
Okay.
She's just gonna skip around behind her.
Okay. Zephyr?
I'll say yes, because I am still wondering what Gil did.
Okay. So you, Lucian, you start to look around, kind of scanning the area for any sign of Gil, which way he could have gone. You turn to the right outside Nortwick and start kind of snaking your way around, just kind of checking the immediate area. Gil, what'd you roll for perception?
16.
Okay. You can hear some activity from the building below you, and you see Lucian, Zephyr, and Raccoon turn the street corner like down to your right. And Lucian, you see Gil just chillaxing on a rooftop. And Raccoon, you recognize the building he happens to be lounging on as the clinic where you would get your routine checkups with Dr. Wattson.
Oh, this Dr. Watson's building.
Oh, that is very coincidental, isn't it? Gil, can you come down here, please?
He's just gonna drop right there in front of her. Yeah.
And break your leg in front of
Listen,
the doctor's office.
Best
listen,
spot to do it.
Gil. It is not easy for me to say what I am going to say to you. So take it, relish it. I'm sorry. I overstepped my boundaries. After what you did for me last night, I should be kinder to you.
Yeah, it's a sensitive area with my father. It's not all kicks and giggles.
Trust me, I understand completely.
Little Zephyr over there should understand that one.
Well, I don't know about your whole history, frankly. Army doesn't care. But I am still wondering what you did last night.
Yeah, I was checking the windows to see if I could figure out where.
Christ.
For now, I'm going to let
And
that
I
fly.
was looking at all the roofs, and there's no sign of where he may have been. No residue.
I'm going to tell Gil Lorcan told me.
Okay.
And tell Gil that there's a doctor in town.
Yeah, that there's a doctor and that he's a medical professional for every year and that he's really intelligent and that he's an elf. All the important things that Lorcan told me.
Interesting.
I think that we should go talk to him. Actually, coincidentally, we're right in front of his clinic.
Are you serious? Is that grumpy old lady down there part of his clinic?
I don't know.
Gil, you actually kind of crane your neck, and you see that the house you had kind of roughly jumped off of is actually about 3 houses down.
And either way, there's a grumpy old lady that way. Don't go there.
Most dangerous figure in this town.
I wasn't planning on it. But I do think that
Told
we
you
should.
that she whacks you with her cane if you come near.
Then we should definitely avoid her. But I do think that we should go talk to this Dr. Wattson.
Oh yeah, let's go talk to him.
Okay. I guess we'll go to the clinic.
I
Okay.
will knock on the door.
Okay. The four of you gather. Gil, you knock on the door. A powerful and after a moment, the door swings open. Raccoon, you see the doctor you've been seeing since Lorcan adopted you. Zephyr, you see the figure that you made an acquaintance of the previous day. Lucian and Gil, you see a very snappily dressed wood elf with straight, very neatly combed and kept black hair. And he kind of looks all of you over. And he has a very slender build, very thin waist. And Zephyr, you see that unlike last time you encountered him, his fingers are currently decorated with many rings, 2 on each. And he is currently dressed in a very fine velvet and silk suit. And Raccoon, as you speak up, he looks down and smiles with his familiar buck tooth gap in between the 2 front teeth smile. Well, hello, Raccoon. What brings you here?
Not the checkup. I'm okay. No worries on that. But they, and she points to them. They had the question, and Lorcan asked me to lead them to you.
He nods and kind of glances at you, Zephyr, but it's no perceptibly different than just glancing over someone you haven't met, and nods to the 3 of you. Well, any friend of Mr. Lorcan and dear Raccoon is a friend of mine. And he looks down to you, Raccoon, with his bucktooth smile and says, well, I suppose if you're not here for a checkup, I won't have to part with my candy stock. And he holds out his bejeweled... Oh, one more time?
She said, oh, what? No. I will let you have checkup if I can.
He chuckles and kind of holds out a finger for you to shake with your small hand and says, I always keep a fresh stock for you, Raccoon. And he holds out his bejeweled hand towards all 3 of the others. My name is Dr. Wattson. It's a pleasure. Don't see many of my own kind around here. And don't see many of you around here either. And he smiles to you, Zephyr.
Yeah.
I know, right? That was my first time seeing one too.
First time's a very interesting experience. And he shakes.
Kobold and the goblin are very new to me.
He smiles and says, well, xenobiology happens to be a specialty of mine. Perhaps I can show you some of the basics, but hobbies will have to wait. And he shakes your hand and holds out his hand to Zephyr and Gil as well.
Gil will shake it with that, firm, masculine way that guys do.
He smiles and returns
the
it.
handshake.
Yeah, he smiles and returns it. It's not nearly as strong as yours, but it's very it's stronger than you expected, and it's very finely dexterous. Like rather than just the straight crushing that you would expect from the guy handshake, it's more like you can feel his fingers with less strength, but crushing into very almost like he's hitting pressure points, and your hand is really sore when the handshake ends, especially with his rings. He smiles and holds out a hand to you, Zephyr.
I guess I will go and shake it.
He shakes your hand and smiles. A pleasure. Come in. I'm seeing a patient at the moment, but it's just routine, so it's nothing that can't afford to wait a few minutes while I entertain guests. Perhaps you might even enjoy some casual dialogue, that sort of thing. And he kind of waves and turns on his heel for you all to enter.
Doctor, can I see the picture books?
Of course you may, dear. Just make sure you put them back and try not to get anything in them again.
I didn't get anything in them last time either.
He smiles and do all of you enter?
I do.
Yes.
I do, but I keep a perceptive eye.
All right. I'll say make me a general perception check.
Raccoon's gonna do it, but it's to find the books.
Well, you've been here enough times, you know where they are, so you can just find them. It's not difficult. Okay, so you carefully keep eyes and ears on the doctor and just around you as you enter. Zephyr, are you going to enter as well?
Yeah.
Okay. As you enter, he gently shuts and locks the door.
Super
And claps his hands as he strolls casually past all of you in his very fine suit, and says, well, I wasn't exactly ready to entertain guests. Give me just a moment to grab some tea if you intend for some somewhat longer. With this many people, I imagine this isn't just a pleasure visit, although it is, of course, a pleasure to see you always, Raccoon. You may show them to the lobby if you wish. And he
Alright.
kind of gestures and heads off to go grab some tea.
She's gonna lead him.
I follow.
Raccoon leads all of you through this. It's a very immaculate, like it's not very wide. It's more tallly built than wide. Gil, you especially got an intimate knowledge of that trying to get onto the roof. But the inside is very luxurious. You're immediately you find yourself in this grand, almost entrance hall with all of the wood is painted an ebony black, and a fine red and gold rug just completely encapsulates the floor of the entryway. This big circular room with stairs leading up to a set of double doors a floor above, which is currently where the doctor is heading. But Raccoon, you head through the double door set below that one on the first floor directly ahead of you, and you all find yourself in a somewhat small but very cozy library. Several velvet couches and love seats are gathered around a fireplace that currently does not have a fire going, but there's 3 bookshelves, rather modest, but still a fairly respectable collection. And you can see various exotic trinkets and knickknacks decorating the room, and a small to compensate for the small room but still visually impressive chandelier dangles above the interior of the lobby. Raccoon, you immediately start grabbing your favorite picture books from Dr. Watson's collection. The other 3, what are you doing?
Well, on the way in here, did I see any weapons, suits of armor, anything like that?
You
Other than
saw
decorative?
two sets of armor matching but decorative on either side of the second floor doorway that the doctor was heading towards, and there's none in the room you're in right now, although you do see a crossed pair of decorative scimitars. But in the room outside, you saw several decorative weapons hung on the wall. You could see bows and swords and axes and even guns just
Any
decorating the
scythes?
walls.
Did I see a scythe?
A what? Sorry?
A scythe.
Yeah, a scythe.
A scythe, you mean?
Yeah, steal it.
Oh, okay. Make me a perception check. You can still keep your one for looking at the doctor in the room around you, but make me another one to see if you can specifically spot. Because there's basically a wall of the entrance hall dedicated floor to ceiling to weapons, and there's just several others. So yeah, just be looking around for a scythe specifically.
That one was an 18. That's what.
Okay. You do not see any scythes, unfortunately.
Scythe.
Yeah, apparently the scythes were unscathed.
Okay.
So you all gather in the very comfortable lobby, sort of the functional waiting room for the good doctor's clinic. You guys see Raccoon just excitedly grabbing their favorite collections, clear with the intent and practice of someone who's clearly been here a lot and knows exactly where their favorite things are.
What kind of books are these?
Looking around, you see a pretty healthy variety. You do see close to the floor are several children's books, presumably for young patients coming in who need to be entertained while the doctor waits to see them. But as you go higher up, it starts to get more educated and exotic. You see several history books, you see several encyclopedias, and in fact, circling perfectly the top row of bookshelves, you see a series of encyclopedias that is basically just a history of the world kind of thing in a long set of incrementally published books that the doctor's clearly taken immaculate care to collect. And you just see several history books, encyclopedias, and even the occasional almanac. Once you get off of the children's section, it's pretty much entirely informational nonfiction.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do I see anything on pressure points and stuff like that?
You do see several medical books, and you actually see a few of those have been already taken out.
I also would like to take a look and see if maybe I can recognize maybe any books that my father might have been keeping.
Okay. I'll say you have time to kind of look around, so I'll say maybe a history check to see if you can like specifically remember a book your father like was interested in or associated with, and then find that title here. So while Gil's looking for medical books, you are looking for just presumably things like magic books. Zephyr, what are you doing? Austin?
Zephyr is going to just simply find a wall and lean against that wall as he waits for the doctor.
Okay.
Doctor Who?
I got a 19.
Okay. Looking around, you do see a few magical research books that your father took an interest in and kept in his personal collection, but that's about it. Like nothing that like off the top of your head would include information about him or any that were like closely associated with him. But you do recognize several from like as in like the same kind of books that he collected.
Okay.
As all of you just search and kind of flip through books idly, Raccoon just plopping down and flipping through one of your favorite stories. After
I'm pretty much my attention is taken by a wonderful story about some donkeys and a dog.
Yeah, it's delightful. And once you're about halfway through and everyone else has concluded their searches, and Zephyr, you're just tapping your foot, about 20 minutes have passed before finally the doors to the lobby are thrown open by the snappily dressed elven doctor, and he strolls in and says, "All right, just needed to take some time to inform my patient I may be a bit late. The tea will be ready shortly. I'll have one of the servants bring it." And he kind of thinks, stroking his chin, and says, "And if it's all right with all of you, I've already run all the routine tests, so everything, all the calibrations and such, can be done here. So just so it doesn't interrupt my patient's day, if you would all be comfortable with that, he may be joining us shortly, but I've made sure we have some privacy for a short while."
I think that is okay.
And he walks in, shutting the doors behind him. And Zephyr, your eyes immediately flick to his waist as you see, similar to before, it had kind of been out of view, kind of in the darkness of the house when you had all first entered. But you can see the small lantern-esque brown cage with the huddled white creature in it as he strolls across the room and places both dexterous, flexible hands on the back of one of the velvet chairs and leans on it, seeming to prefer that to sitting down, and says, "So, what can I help you all with?"
Well, first, do I recognize the creature in the cage?
Make me a nature check. Yeah, nature check.
I don't know if I introduced myself, but Lucian will again tell him who she is.
Oh, pleasure.
I don't think I've ever. I mean, no, I don't mean any offense by this, but I don't think I've ever heard of a Dr. Watson of an elvish nature. I mean, I think this is great, I'll be honest with you, but this is the first time I've heard anything.
He smiles and says, "Oh, well, I wouldn't expect so. I prefer to keep my reputation rather on the down low, as the kids say. I prefer not to have attention drawn to myself." And he gestures to the immaculate room you find yourself in and says, "I find a secluded life of comfort works just fine for me. But that won't stop me from pursuing my passions." And as he says this, he pulls a large blueberry lollipop from his coat and holds it out to you, Raccoon.
I had a
She makes grabby hands at it.
He hands it off to you, and what'd you get, Gil?
22.
You recognize this creature as actually a creature that is often kept, quote unquote, where you come from, a gremlin, a small cousin of the goblin that is very intelligent and especially skilled with advanced technologies. They are often kept, especially by elves, especially elves from where you come from, as slaves.
You hear a loud crunch as she bites down on the lollipop.
Dr. Watson, where are you from?
He tilts his head to the side and raises an eyebrow, but shrugs and says, "I come from the Gyoga territories."
Do I know where that is?
That is where Gil is
No,
from.
so I do.
Oh.
Nice little gremlin you got there.
His eyes kind of go wide, like, "Oh, you noticed," and he kind of flexes his hip a bit so that it's more clearly in view, and you can see the creature like kind of pulling its knees over its head and kind of just huddling in the cage. And he smiles and says, "Yes, I find having a personal one helps very greatly with the sort of work I do. I imagine Lorcan informed you."
Yes, that was really interesting to me. What kind of work do you do?
He smiles and says, "Well, in fields where healing magic or simple medicine fails, I specialize in helping people reacquire the things they have lost. In fact, the patient I've just finished performing routine maintenance on upstairs, I helped them reacquire a lost eye after a relative of theirs committed a dreadful assault on their person during a family upset."
You will look over at Lucian on that one.
Is the gremlin that's in the cage, is it like a slave kind of thing?
Is it a what? Sorry.
A slave?
Yes, it's a sword.
And is in character as Raccoon?
No, in general, asking in general.
Oh yeah, yes, yes. He said that elves in the Geogran territories will keep gremlins as slaves to work on their advanced technology.
She's probably a little put out by this.
Well,
A little unsure because it is a subspecies of goblin, and she could very easily be in a position like that elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. He leans forward and says, "Yes, I found I rather had a talent for that sort of thing. After a dear friend of mine, a gargoyle, lost their tail, and I provided him a primitive but functional replacement. And wouldn't you know it, a special talent had been discovered." And he kind of drums his fingers on the back of the chair. "It's fulfilling work, and it lets me keep my privacy, provided I let the patients keep theirs. Patient confidentiality at all." And he kind of smiles and looks over all of you and kind of throws a pointed glance at you, Zephyr.
Lucian will nod. Yeah, my father was the same way. Have you heard of my father? He had the first name Lucian and the same last name as me.
He smiles and says, "Yes, I'm aware of your family, although I can't say I've had the pleasure of working very closely with them. But I've always greatly admired you and your father's work."
Well, I hate to tell you this, but my father is no longer with us.
His face falls, and he kind of stoops a bit and actually has to go around the chair to sit down in it, and kind of puts a hand to his head, and after a moment nods and says, "Well, such is often the case with brilliant men. Hubris is often the thing that claims them, and if that's not the case, then one of their own experiments gone wrong. An interesting subspecies of hubris, interesting fun fact. And he kind of smiles and leans back and crosses his long, lanky legs and says, I'm sorry for your loss. If that's what you've come here for, I offer condolences, but I do not offer the services of necromancy, if that's what you're asking
Oh
me.
no,
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 no.
no.
We have a question for you. Have any other elves been through here recently? Maybe a male, maybe a little bit shorter than myself, but roughly the same height as this
They would look
lady
kind
right
of
here.
like me.
He smiles a bit and says, making presumptions about elves, are we? I'm joking. And he kind of thinks for a moment and says, I can say I haven't seen any in the city, but I'm afraid patient confidentiality rather restricts what I can tell you. Uh, Once a patient has come under my care, I'm afraid it is out of my hands what I can and can't tell others.
Oh no, we're
That's
not asking
understandable.
for anything particular. We're just wanting to know if there has been.
He shakes his head and
Nothing
says,
in particular.
none in the city, I'm afraid.
Have you
Lucian
seen
will sigh.
anyone with maybe with red armor and a gold cape?
That's a rather showy ensemble, it sounds like, but no,
You
nothing
have
rings a bell.
no idea. And she's gonna laugh. Kind of
Uh,
like that laugh, like where you're kind of like laughing at your own
Nervous.
joke and own
yeah,
irony.
yeah. And he chuckles as well. And the door opens, and a small, kind of ratty-looking halfling comes in, kind of nodding quickly to all of you, and hands you all a cool but very fragrant cup of tea. And as the servant kind of bows to all of you and quickly scurries out of the room and closes the door behind them, uh, the doctor raises his teacup to you, Zephyr, and says, "You've been rather quiet. What brings you here? Same as them?"
Uh, I'm merely just a company.
Hmm. Well, that's respectable, I suppose. Now, are we talking bodyguard or accompaniment? And he kind of smiles a bit.
Zephyr is usually Zephyr is usually here for how do you say along for the ride.
He smiles and says, "Oh, I know what that's like. Several of my colleagues are much the same way, very confused about what they truly want and hoping that working with a man like myself will bring them some form of clarity." And he takes a sip from his teacup.
Speaking of, I'd be very interested to maybe work together. I nothing like my father. I don't do anything in the necromancy field, but I am a healer.
He smiles and says, "Well, I suppose I could use the help well enough. I try to avoid using healing magic or magic at all personally. I've found, since I've found my new calling, that magic is. I find it rather distasteful. Not any offense to
And
users like yourself, but
versatile.
It is
he.
good for, a quick fix, but in the end, it is really important to, fix the problem.
Yeah, he gives a nod as he takes a sip from his tea. Excellently spoken. You're clearly all as articulate as your father, if not quite interested in the same fields, but nothing was ever gained without being experimental. He leans back and says, I'd be happy to at least offer some counter consultation. The patient I'm seeing right now has had some rather dire trouble getting the scarring from his attack going away. Perhaps your healing magic can deal with that. I'm afraid my technology on that front is rather limited, even if I was able to restore his vision.
I can certainly try, and the least I can do.
He gives a smile. I'm sure they and I both would greatly appreciate that. And he looks to you, Gil, and says, "And what of you? You don't strike me as someone interested in medical studies. In fact, you strike me as the type who encourages others to seek it themselves, if you catch my meaning. What brings you to my study with such a brilliant elf and soft spoken creature?"
I'm more of the guard.
He is here for me. Yes, he is here for my protection.
He smiles. Oh, I can see that from what I've read, you haven't lost any of your father's interesting mindset regarding outside forces. 2 bodyguards and possibly 3 raccoon.
She's like eating her.
Yeah, raccoon's just like mouth on the lollipop, and he smiles and says, "Well, certainly at least 2 bodyguards, and one's of such interesting motif, rather unexpected." And he leans back and uncrosses his legs, but then crosses them back the other way, just kind of constantly fidgeting, almost like he seems to just be really comfortable, like if he's in constant fluid motion, and says, "Well, if all of you are just here for accompaniment and you, miss, are simply here for some help with my research and medical practice, it's not that I don't appreciate it, but I forgive me if this is too forward, but I feel like there's something I'm not being told here. It's
So
not every.
there is one other thing. Should,
One more time. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
or should someone want to be? Should you want to find someone in this city? How would you do so if they don't want to be found?
Hmm. Well, I'm sorry to tell you that this is the sort of city where you go if you don't want to be found, but believe it or not, the guards are actually respectably competent at their jobs, so it wouldn't hurt to ask them. And believe me, you do not want to be the unlucky pickpocket who is sent to giants to be interrogated. So it couldn't hurt to ask the guardsman. And he thinks for a moment and says, "But if you're interested in that sort of thing and have something to offer, with the ball going on, there's some very elite forces in the area showing their stuff, hoping to find mercenary work for royalty. It couldn't hurt to ask some of the masters in the field and see if they may be willing to assist. I actually hear that there's a quite extravagant, successful force coming in just this very morning. They should actually be finding themselves at the manor about now. So you could always ask for them if you have the coin to hire mercenaries to find whoever you're looking for. But other than that, I'm afraid there's not a whole lot I can offer you."
It is more like trying to avoid somebody that is looking for, you know.
Plus, I know there's a network. I just assumed maybe someone as well off as yourself might know.
He raises an eyebrow and says, "Do I strike you as the kind of person who's that deeply invested in illicit activity?"
You'd
No.
be surprised.
He smiles. "Indeed, you might."
People who get to the top don't tend to stay there for their, well, good deeds.
He smiles and says, "Well, regardless, patient confidentiality does not prevent me from telling you this, that there is some who could help you find someone, but if you're hoping to avoid being found, then your best bet is probably to leave the city when there's the largest political gathering of the year happening."
Unfortunately, as you can tell, there's really, you know, some of us have to be here.
He leans forward and smiles and says, "I suppose that's true. Tell me, what or who is it exactly that you're so afraid of?"
She Kind of shifts in her
Gil
chair.
will put a piece of paper down on the table and slide it towards him and say, "It's on here, but
He
some are not welcome to hear what is said."
he
I'm trying to keep it from me so badly.
I'm gonna probably speak up at this point and be like, "Doctor,
yes, dear. What do you need?
do you mind if you see anybody like even in town at all, outside of patient confidentiality?" And she like stumbles over the word.
Mhm.
If you see anybody like the one that that Lucian was talking about, do you think possibly you could send a message to Lorcan?
It will be my first priority. You and Lorcan both have always been loyal to my business, and believe me, that's helpful in a place that would rather not be operated by the dainty hands of an elf. So I find it rather useful to get consistent business. I'll see
We
it
would
done.
very much appreciate it. We kind of think that he is stalking Lucian and might be a dangerous individual.
Ooh, you don't want dangerous individuals stalking you.
No, no. Which is why
Alright.
we trying to make
Lucian
sure
is
that he is not here.
yeah, Lucian looks very uncomfortable, and she's like kind of shifting in her seat, like trying not to have a panic attack.
Yeah, that's
He,
all that's gonna be said. She's doing it to like
Mm.
keep him from asking more questions about it.
The doctor
If
kind
you
of
try to find someone to help me find someone else, could you possibly give me a name?
he smiles and he glances to you, Lucian, and is Lucian like calming down, or does it seem like
Yeah,
they're
she's like taking deep breaths and just trying to like be like it's okay, he's not actually here, we're just talking about it, you're safe, it's okay.
Okay.
He nods and holds up a finger to you, Gil, and slowly slides it over to himself and picks up the paper you had slided him. What's on it?
Uh, the name of her brother.
Did I ever tell you his name?
You did not.
I think it was something like Lucifer.
I don't think I ever told you.
I'm
thought
yeah,
you
I'm
said that.
pretty.
Pretty sure she never told you.
I don't think she trusts
It's
anyone.
blank.
Barely trusts me with
Maybe just the description of
Yeah. I'll say we'll split the difference and say the description. And he looks it over and gives a nod and folds it up and slides it back to you and says, "I will do everything I can. And if you're looking for hiring some elite forces, Captain Droop and his crew are some of the best in the business when it comes to finding things others don't want found and finding it for themselves for a respectable fee. But I'll warn you, if you're interested in hiring him, you'll need some rather deep pockets."
Nothing less than from the best, I guess.
He chuckles a bit and kind of sips his tea, and he just kind of has that smile of like, kind of almost an internal inside joke.
Lucian is just kind of staring into her tea, looking at her reflection.
Uh, he slowly puts his teacup down, seeming mostly finished with it, and says, "Well, is there anything else I can help all of you with?"
No, I was just really interested to hear, what kind of practice you did, and really interested in meeting you, because, like I said, it's not very often that you see, our kind in this, uh, situation.
He gives a slow nod and says, "Yes, of course." And he thinks for a moment and says, "Well, if I may be blunt, how comfortable are all of you with the sort of inevitable work a doctor finds themselves doing on their patients? I'm not asking for nurses. It's simply maybe more prudent for a demonstration if you're interested in the sort of work I do, rather than trying to
I'm
bore you to death with technobabble."
Oh,
I know
it is
healing
not
magic.
boring. It is
I know-
not boring for me.
I know some healing magic.
It's, a lot.
Mhm.
Nothing you can do that could surprise me.
I think you'd be surprised yourself. And he looks to Zephyr, Lucian, and Raccoon. You did not answer my question, though. Are you comfortable with the sight of blood, at the very least?
Oh, yes.
I work in a tavern. You know the things I work around.
He kind of balks a bit and says, fair enough.
Particularly of the kind where people drink so much that they just blah.
Yeah, that's fair. And he looks to you, Zephyr.
He's fine with it.
Oh,
Just
really?
pretending fine with it.
How do you know? He might be squeamish.
He stabbed me.
So that doesn't mean that he's not squeamish.
I mean, I do agree. There's a difference between stabbing and actually just cutting something open.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised what someone can tolerate in the name of self-defense.
You're not, unwelcome, Zephyr.
Well, that's debatable, but what does not bother me?
I didn't say he wasn't welcome. I said he was not unwelcome.
Well, yeah, basically you're indifferent, basically.
He smiles and pats his knees before standing up. Very well. If you'll all follow me, let's practice medicine.
Lucy's
and-
very excited.
He kind of waves.
Roll his eyes like, oh,
I'm
boy.
just trying to decipher what y'all have told Zipper now.
So he kind of waves all of you past, but Zephyr, because you're the furthest across the room, you leave the room last, and the doctor walks behind you, closing the door behind them. And the doctor basically leads you all, just kind of directing you from the back upstairs towards the set of double doors. And as you're going up the stairs, Zephyr, he speaks up behind you, not seeming going out of his way to lower his voice, but just kind of that tone of like you're in a group, but you kind of want a private conversation, but you're not like gonna punch somebody if they're listening in. And says, "It's not every day I see something like you around here. If that sort of thing interests you, I'd pay a rather respectable fee for the chance to examine you."
Well, how much we talking?
He smiles. How much do you want? I'm the richest man in town.
Oh.
Well, I suppose that's not technically true, what with the nobility and all, but I do find myself with the sort of deep pockets your friend is in the market for at the moment.
Yeah. I'm not surprised since, coming from your standing.
He smiles and says, my standing does have its perks, but you don't have to answer me right away. It's a rather large commitment, I'm sure. But just think on it and consider it something of a blank check. And as he kind of cuts to the front of the group to open the double doors for you, you find yourselves going down a long, narrow hallway with the same black painted ivory wood on either side. Or ivory and wood rather, and you see just a series of doors on either side. And while it does have that homey feel to it, it does give off the kind of clinical feeling of just like you can immediately tell this is just where the patients stay. It's just and you can see like little plaques next to each door with some like files and folders and notes kind of stuffed into little side holders. And
does the smell kind of remind me of home?
It brings back a few memories. It's definitely like that sort of distinct way of doing things, but it carries like a slightly different air to it. Like think of it as if you came home, but everything was like moved around differently. Like it's recognizable, but like there's that part of you that's like this is also pretty distinctly foreign.
Okay.
And he approaches a door second to the right of the entryway and holds up a hand for all of you to kind of stop, and lowers his hand to indicate some quiet, and gently knocks on the door. May I come in? I brought some guests, but I sure it won't interfere with the operation. And you hear a voice from inside. Yeah, that sounds okay, doctor.
Oh.
I like
He smiles and opens the door and kind of takes a glance in and smiles before gesturing to allow all of you to enter.
Slowly enter.
All right. Do the rest of you follow?
I do.
Yeah.
Zephyr. As you enter, you see a figure you don't recognize. Currently dressed in very simple cloth pants, and you can see a pair of boots off to the side, and a sleeveless cloth, almost tunic of sorts, revealing very pale skin. And definitely an elf, as you can see from the distinct features. You see scars running all along the back, on the hand, and up the arm all the way to the right side of the face, where you can see a particularly nasty, almost like beastly slash looking mark over a milky, pasty looking eye that is like almost constantly squinting. You see they have a head of red hair currently reduced to a almost shaven buzz cut, but with some bangs still coming in. Uh, and very familiar eyes. Well, the one eye that continues to have color. Raccoon and Gil. This figure matches, at least to a point, given the shaven head, the description that Lucian had given you. And Lucian, you'd recognize this anywhere as your brother.
Oh.
Do I see her react?
Lucian is frozen.
I mean,
Why do you have guests over, Doctor? Oh, just simple business. This one here, and he pats Lucian on the head, is interested in medical work, so I thought it may be prudent to let her observe the remains of your procedure. Just you know the routine. We've done this a million times. And he kind of waves his scarred hand casually. Of course, Doctor, of course.
At this point, Raccoon's going to kind of like. She's kind of very obviously bristling and steps in front of Lucian.
Hey, Doc.
Lucian's
is
gonna
it safe to get a name for this guy?
He kind of thinks to himself and looks to the patient. I think it's more fair for you to make the decision, I suppose. And the elf raises the still perfectly skinned hand with a smile and says, "Of course, Doctor." He kind of hops off of the just little almost kitchen table, but like cleaned and laminated with a cloth draped over it, and approaches you, Lucian, with a smile and holds his clean hand out and says, "My name is Lucian Elfekir."
oh.
Sudo.
Raccoon hisses.
My name is Sudo.
He smiles and grabs your hand and shakes it vigorously. "It's always a pleasure to see more elves in the city."
Huh.
Couldn't be more happy to see another elf.
He smiles and says, "I suppose finding another elf has been a long time coming, has it not?"
I've been traveling with one, so not really.
"Oh, so lucky you. And what is your name?" He approaches Gil.
I have no name.
I have no name.
"Oh, mysterious. Maybe I should try that. Doctor, can I try that? Can I not have a name?" "I think you've already given it to them, Lucian." And he kind of snaps his fingers, like kind of that cartoony swiper snap, and kneels down to you with a smile, Raccoon, and holds out their hand. "And who are you?"
She just hisses at him.
He kind of pulls his hand back and says, "Oh, no, I guess nobody has names anymore. What about you, little tiny lizard?"
Well, yes. Seeing everyone's reaction, but they didn't want to share the info, so I have no idea who this person is. So I introduce myself. Well, my name is Zephyr.
Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you, Zephyr. And he kind of reaches around Lucian to grab your hand and shake it. The operating room being somewhat on the small side, still enough room for you all to stand apart from each other, but just like you're all kind of standing together and had come in a cluster. And he gestures to the milky eye looking at you, Lucian, and says, yes, a member of my family caused me great injury, so the doctor gave me a replacement. And he taps against the side of his head, and you can see the eye kind of swivel in place a bit. And Dr. Wattson pats him on the shoulder and says, just every so often it needs routine maintenance, make sure it doesn't miscalibrate or lose its ability to grant him some form of sight. And he kind of gently guides the elf back to the table. The elf's clearly able to navigate and do things on his own, but just seems to like the attention. And he hops up back on the table and starts kind of kicking his little feet, kind of swinging side to side. As he looks at you, Lucian, and says, so you're interested in becoming a doctor?
Can I insight?
Go for it.
Lucian will just kind of give a smile and nod. Do you mind if I look at your scars?
That's a natural 20.
All right. And he smiles and says, oh, yes, of course. Most of them have set or faded by now, so it couldn't hurt. Right, doctor? The doctor gives you a affirmative nod and steps aside as Lucian turns and sits crisscross on the table with his back to you, where you see just all of you see a series of gnarly looking scars. It's not even anything immediately uniform, like the perfect sheen of a burn scar or the slashes of something like being whipped or slashed. It's just a Van Gogh tapestry of various shades of red and even some like a darker, like unpleasant scabby shade. And Raccoon kind of recoiling and like arched back and hissing as Lucian, quote unquote, turns to sit. As their good eye faces you as they spin, you see a just. You've not seen this expression on anyone, but it sends a shiver up your spine. The expression of someone who has found something they're looking for and will do anything to get their hands on it.
Raccoon is just even more at this point, like completely even noticeable to the doctor. Very much hostile.
While they're doing that, Lucian is just going to gently run her fingers on the scars, just remembering what they're from and back her tears.
You can see his hands kind of drum against his shins and knees, and he kind of gently speaks in a very quiet tone, immediately audible only to you, and says, it hurts what family can do, doesn't it?
To the quick, she whispers back.
He smiles, and you can see him just staring at you through the reflection in one of the windows facing towards the outside or towards the interior of the city. And the doctor kind of steps back and looks to the rest of you, and his expression kind of falls into a frown as he sees all of you just tensed and, or in Zephyr's case, just kind of confused, and says,
I can kind of piece some of it together, man.
yeah. Is something the matter?
I mean,
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Can we go outside for a second? You and me. Quick question.
He bites his lip and kind of looks to quote unquote Lucian, who waves a hand without even looking and says, I will be okay, doctor. I can take care of myself. And the doctor kind of gives a slow nod and kind of guides you out of the operating room, kind of stepping around Raccoon, who seems really agitated, and gives you a nod, Zephyr, as he passes. And the doctor and Gil leave the room and shut the door behind them. He leans against the door. So what can I help you with?
What do you know about this, Lucy?
He kind of taps the side of his leg and says, "Remember what we discussed in the lobby about patient confidentiality?"
Yes, but I specifically asked you if there were other elves that you were treating.
I said, if I recall, outside of the limits of patient confidentiality, I have seen no elves in the city. This one falls strictly under the label I specifically excluded from the search.
Yes, but that is not their real name.
Is it not?
No, because I know it's real Lucian. How you pronounce that last name again?
Ilfalkir.
And
Uh,
that's not it.
he raises an eyebrow and says, to my understanding, there is already two wandering around, your traveling compatriot and her father. So I'm afraid I don't find it that unbelievable that there could be a third.
Do they all just have the name Lucian?
You don't know.
And he shrugs and kind of leans back against the door with his arms crossed and says, "Besides, to be perfectly frank, they're just as entitled to use a false name as you're entitled to give no name at all to a patient. It does me no harm. It's not as if they can use something like that to dodge the things they need. If anything, giving me a false name only makes his life harder because he needs to see me routinely for operations on his eye."
Something doesn't seem right about it, Doc.
And what, pray tell, is that?
Did you not see all the tension in the room?
He smiles and says, "I'm afraid any tension between my patient and you is none of my business, and I would rather think it's against the Hippocratic Oath to say that it's immediately the patient's fault that you happen not to like them."
Oh no! Did you not see my friend? She could tell who that was. She knows him.
He kind of steps forward, closing the distance between you, and kind of looks you up and down and says, "Now, assuming I went along with your completely unfounded suspicions, yes, I acknowledge the reaction, but that's beside the point. What would you have me do exactly? I can't, in good conscience, turn a patient away who needs my help to keep one of his very necessary sensory organs functioning.
Do that.
Then what exactly should I do with these accusations you're handing me?"
To keep a close eye on him. If he's
He
he makes some sound. He's not showing you his true self.
He raises a hand and says, "If it would make you feel better, consider this a therapeutic consultation. I solemnly swear, within my bounds as a doctor under the Hippocratic Oath, that I will not let him out of my sight within reason. And at the very least, he intends to stay here for the next couple weeks, family affairs and all that. So I will be sure that he is observed, but I refuse to stalk a patient without any evidence to back up a reasoning for it. So that's the best I can give you at the moment, I'm afraid."
And if I got you the evidence?
He smiles and says, "Then I would turn it into the guards and let them handle it. I'm a doctor, not a soldier, not an officer, and not willing to step into whatever drama happens between elvish siblings."
We didn't say anything about him being a sibling.
It's
I
obvious.
was just about to say that. Who said anything about siblings?
He points to the paperwork of the that's kind of hanging outside the door where it says Lucy and Elfalkir, and gestures to the door. "Your friend introduced themselves as the same, and I was call it a fan of their father's work. I think it's fair to say that if the father has the last name, the patient has the last name, and they look as similar as they do, that they're likely related in some way. Or would you have me believe that they have the exact same name, species, and look, and have no actual relation to each other?"
You tell me, Doc. We've seen weirder things.
I suppose you have. Now, if you're done accusing my patients, I really need to get on with this calibration.
Of course.
He gives you a nod and opens the door, re-entering. So while they were out, Zephyr, Raccoon, and Lucian, what have you been doing?
All right.
Okay.
Raccoon is keeping herself between the two.
right.
Lucian has not taken her hands off of her brother. She will look at him through the reflection. What of your eye? How long has this been like this?
His brow kind of furrows and he tilts his head, seeming genuinely confused. You don't remember?
She looks visibly shaken. How could I forget?
He smiles, and you see his eyes get a very stony, unsettling look as he turns around to face you, but turns so that the glass eye is facing you primarily, and you're facing the entire heavily scarred side of his body as his glass eye kind of goes up and down, but you notice it kind of twitch to the side occasionally as he says, "Time hasn't changed you, but it has changed me."
I can see in your eye that it has.
He smiles, and you can feel Raccoon kind of nudging between your legs and the desk, trying to kind of force some distance between you and your sibling. Zephyr, you're just watching this unfold.
Yeah. Guess saying this
Are
be like,
you really for yourself? Or did you find me here?
What did you say?
Did did you come here for yourself or for me?
He smiles. Little of column A, little of column B.
I guess my time is up.
He smiles and says, "That all depends on how things play out."
Honestly, was expecting this for a long time. But using my name, really? You think that I talk like that?
His smile goes wide, and and he just kind of laughs and spins back around to face you completely. And you kind of pull back as your hand is like no longer able to reach his scarred back. As he kind of leans back and forth and said, you pick up a few things as you travel around."
Oh, well, look at me. I'm Lucifer. I think I know everything.
Look at me, I'm Lucian. I think I know everything and like to make fun of how people talk.
Have to make fun of you. You make fun of yourself.
He just kind of does the little chat the hand puppet of someone talking too much and rolls his eyes.
Seems like we should give you guys your room.
Yeah, Raccoon at this point will try to very firmly get in between them and be like, I think that is enough at the moment.
I don't know. I'm enjoying the show.
Raccoon. Even if you wanted to, I don't think you could separate us.
I'm not trying to separate. I think you look like you're very unhappy right now, and I don't like that, and it's putting my nerves on edge, and it's making me want to do a stabby, and I don't want to do that.
Hey, sister, it's okay. I do not want the little and he kind of imitates your little snorting sound you had done. To be feeling stabby. I'll see you at the party, yes?
She looks very, very hard at him. Like she's trying to decide something.
He smiles and says, and if you want to find me before that, I like to have tea parties with the doctor over at the manor where he's staying.
You know, I'm a sucker for tea. Her expression has not changed.
His smile just continues, and you hear the door open behind you as the doctor and Gil enter the room. All right, let's start making progress on your calibrations. And he kind of stands, kind of gently pulls you back, Lucian, and holds up a just small, like smooth stick, kind of like a skinny pestle almost, and begins to like gently move it side to side. And you can see the glass eye following it. And he basically just starts running a very simple series of tests to make sure that the eye is able to actually track what it's supposed to be looking at, and he's able to actually see what it's looking at. But he eventually moves to the side for this to allow him to, with his good eye, look at all of you as the eye continues to move independent, creating a very unsettling visage. And he smiles at all of you and says, "What about the rest of you? Will all of you be at the party?"
More or less.
I believe so.
Anyway,
Sounds like it's going to be a fun display.
And what about you?
I like it.
She just scrunches her nose up and hisses back.
Doctor, is that goblin for yes? The doctor just shakes his head, clearly like, I'm not getting involved. And he kind of starts like swinging side to side slightly, but the eye continues to like perfectly stay on track to what the doctor's getting him to look at. Just a series of charts with letters and numbers on it, and stopping every so often to say like a number or a letter to the doctor. He says, "I'm proud of my outfit for the party. I think you'll all really like it."
I can't wait to see it. It's almost sarcastic, her voice.
Would it happen to be red with a gold cape?
Those are my favorite colors. How did you know?
It's just my friend here loves the same colors.
Of course they do. Of course they do. And he kind of hops up and down, and eventually hops off the table in a very abrupt motion, like startling even the doctor, who kind of steps to the side. And he starts to like almost do like a half skip, half walk, closer to all of you.
Lucian takes a half step back.
He
And I
reaches.
do the half step forward in front of her.
He continues forward as Lucian steps back, but stops as you step forward, Gil, and he smiles at you and holds out his hand to you, Lucian, and says, "It is good to see you again, even if you seem very upset."
Lucian doesn't take the hand.
He pulls it back and smiles and says, and he opens his mouth to speak before just saying nothing, and the eye rolls to face backwards, and the doctor holds up a chart, like as he's kind of organizing the cloth on the table that had been disrupted by all of his shifting around, and holds up the chart with, you can just see various random letters and numbers and comment on it, and the eye rolls to face backwards, and he smiles and says, "To A and C, doctor."
Oh.
The doctor nods and takes a few notes, and the eye rolls back to look at all of you, and he smiles.
Glad that the good doctor was able to find something that was, that could work for you. And this seems actually really genuine.
He smiles and says, "The doctor is very good at what he does. The best."
Okay, well, doctor, I think we've.
Well, listen,
long enough.
I didn't think it was possible, Lucian. Someone is equally as annoying as you, and I'm
That's
impressed.
not very nice. Don't say that about my sister.
Well, I just speak the truth. Well, not always.
No,
true.
you don't.
You're right, but that one is the truth.
He kind of, his lips kind of pucker, and he like kind of furrows his brow and kind of like wiggles angrily in place before spinning on his heel and saying, "I'll see you at the party, sister." And he kind of stomps over to the table and hops back on it as the doctor begins.
I use your real name.
He smiles and says, I can't use my real name, unfortunately.
Oh no, she says.
He smiles and says, how else am I going to get to go to a fancy party? Nobody knows my other name.
And that's it's your problem, Lucifer.
And I'm gonna look at the doctor at this point and go with this pointed look.
Who
He-
is Lucifer?
Your Lucian, your brother, holds up his hands and says, but father's name is very famous. It gets me into places. And the doctor looks to you, Gil, and raises an eyebrow and mouths, not my business.
It's also my name. You were born with a name too. Your mother loved your name.
I didn't know you wanted to go to fancy parties.
You don't know anything about me.
And he stops, and the glass eye starts to just scan up and down your body. And he shakes his head and says, that's not true.
She frowns and stares at him. Name.
He steps forward and kind of glances to you, Gil, as if seeing if you're going to stop him this time.
I'm just gonna say, be very careful.
Be very, very quiet. We're hunting weapons.
We're hunting Lucians.
He steps forward and gently, like basically going slow enough to where you could pull back if you wanted to place his hands on your shoulders before gently pulling you into a hug, and says, you think I don't know a lot about you, but you don't know a lot about me either. I missed you.
She takes a second, but hugs him back. Mutual.
He pats you on the back slowly and very like with that like slow, like deliberately like going as slow as possible movement of someone who like, you know, you've just finished petting a very fluffy dog and desperately don't want to stop, but you have to keep moving. He pulls away from you and looks you up and down and smiles and says, I will see you at the party.
Or maybe before that. If that is okay with a good doctor.
Of course. I will be sure to bring my best tea. And he kind of gives you a kind of like offhand salute and says, I think I can trust you all to see yourselves out. Raccoon, you know the facility well. Make sure nobody touches anything that they're not supposed to. And Miss Lucian, I may see you tomorrow.
Yes.
He kind of nods and starts. He pulls like a small fluid from a nearby shelf and sprays it onto a washcloth that he kind of reaches towards your brother's eye and says, you may want to leave the room for this next part. It's nothing painful, but a lot of people find it unpleasant to observe. Just a simple cleaning.
And I will take Lucian, my Lucian,
Yeah, of course.
Your Lucian.
by the arm and lead her out of the room.
Her eyes don't leave
I will-
Lucifer's face.
I will stay.
All right. Raccoon?
She's going to stick with Lucian, but not without leaving, turning around towards Lucifer and sticking her tongue out, baring her teeth, and then follows behind Lucian.
He just smiles at you, and as you leave, Lucian, bye, sister.
Goodbye, brother. As soon as we leave the room, she wants to find a bucket and puke in it.
All right. Raccoon, you've been here before. You know that most of the clinic rooms actually have buckets in them for similar reasons. So easy enough to do. You find a clinic room that is unlocked and unoccupied. While you guys are, Gil, you and Raccoon basically escort Lucy into a place to safely and comfortably have a panic attack. And while that happens, Zephyr, the door closes. You wanted to stay?
Yep.
As the door closes, the doctor, you can see, now has Lucian's brother's eye in hand and holds it up. And after a moment, Lucifer pipes up, "They are gone." And the doctor rolls his eyes and tosses the eye back to the elf who catches it. "Oh, finally." And he adjusts his suit and looks to you, Zephyr. "And what exactly are you thinking bringing strangers here after what we discussed?"
What did we discuss?
He smiles and says, "As I recall, we never saw each other and don't know who each other are."
Hmm. Well, frankly, I'm happy I came. It was a very fun show.
Uh, he kind of rolls his eyes and says, "Yes, you, you did that. You." And he kind of stops to calm himself down, before saying, "You are very lucky that things went as smoothly as they did." Uh, and Lucifer kind of looks between the two of you and tilts his head to the doctor. "Is my sister mad at me?" And the doctor kind of waves a hand and shakes his head. "I don't imagine so. I think it's just shell shock after everything." And he kind of gives a slow nod, and with a very unpleasant view, he licks the eye before putting it back into place and kind of
Ew.
slapping the side of his head to get it to stay calibrated.
Ew.
And Zephyr, you watch and you can actually see a kind of magical, like, kind of wave go over it as it gets back into place. And he kind of blinks a few times before smiling, the eye now following the movements of his organic one perfectly.
Huh? Neat little trick there, I see.
He smiles and says, "Oh, that's not the half of what I can do."
What happened with not wanting to use?
"This is not magic. This is sufficiently advanced technology. But a wise man once said, the difference is rather narrow." And he leans over and kind of gently bangs the knuckle of one of his hands against the eye. And you can see it kind of like, not spark, but you can see a kind of like glow kind of ping across it, almost as if like the kind of sonar effect. And Lucifer kind of shakes his head and kind of like gently pushes the doctor away from him. "But you haven't answered my question. What do you want? I know you're not playing bodyguard to that elf willingly."
Well, I'm thinking about your offer.
"Oh." And Lucifer looks to the doctor. "Have you been making deals without permission again?" And the doctor holds up a hand to quiet him. "Go on."
Well, before I agree to this and name my price, what would you be doing?
He smiles and tilts his head to the side. "What exactly are you referring to?"
Referring to the blank check that you offered.
He smiles and says, "Well, as you saw from my library, I consider myself a healthy host of information. Uh, so I could offer you just about anything you might want to know, within reason, of course. But if that is not enough of a blank check for you, I have money, and I may be able to provide you with something special." And he gestures to Lucifer's eye, which is currently like like kind of rotating around, not like loosely, but just kind of like looking around the room in a very like almost as if like it's almost like a drone doing an organized clinical scan of an area.
Hmm. Well, not sure if I want a weird looking eye that will make all my clients or customers that happen to find offsetting.
Uh, He smiles and says, I suppose that's fair enough. From what I could tell, your friends seem to find him rather unsettling themselves. And he kind of pats Lucifer on the back and says, but fair enough. I can offer you money, and I can offer you reasonable things you may want to know. In exchange, to answer your original question, all I'd be doing is a simple physical investigation of you. I haven't had the fortune to do that sort of thing on someone like you. I'm afraid only some colleagues of mine have gotten the pleasure. In fact, I may ask for her help in the matter if that's something you'd be comfortable with.
Are you meaning having her study my body?
He smiles. Don't phrase it so clinically. You'll be fine, I assure you.
Well, frankly, I don't mind whoever studies the body. I mean, long as the price as well.
Very well. Come to tomorrow's tea party. My patient, and he gestures to Lucifer, and a colleague of mine will be there. Enjoy the tea and the snacks, make some casual conversation, and meet me in my room in the manor. The guards will know to let you in.
All right.
He nods and gestures towards the door and says, and the usual circumstances of when we see each other apply, this time seriously. If anyone asks, you were just getting a routine checkup, and I'll back up your story. And he takes a moment to flex his fingers a bit, and you can see a few of the rings start to glow. And Lucifer smiles, and you can see his eye immediately dart to the direction the others had gone, and you see the pupil widen and shrink, in just a very clinical ping. And he smiles and says, "It looks like Lucian was not happy to see me."
I got that vibe as well.
Quick question.
What's up?
I'm guessing that that eye is pretty special to see through stuff. On my way out, can I put a hand behind my back and give a middle finger on my way
How
out?
do you know that?
You can if you want. Like, nothing's stopping you. Sure. All right. And Lucifer looks to you, Zephyr, as the doctor turns away. Will you be at the party too?
I believe so. I have some business there that I take care of as well.
He hops up and down in his seat and claps before kind of swinging side to side and saying, I hope so. You're very fun, and you're the only other one who was polite enough to give me their name.
Oh. Well, I don't know the full story, so I saw no reason to hide my name.
You see the doctor kind of smile and kind of glance at you. Admirable. And Lucifer smiles and says, well, you better go make sure you'll be ready. Make sure you get plenty of sleep, drink plenty of water. And if you see Raccoon, can you tell them that I think she's adorable? I like the little sound she makes.
Like you want to hate him.
Sure will. Sure. All right.
Thank you.
All right, and I guess I will take my leave.
Bye, Zephyr. See you tomorrow. Zephyr, you exit the room and you find the other three exiting one of the other clinic rooms, Lucian looking a bit wobbly and worse for wear. And you meet up in the hallway. Are you guys ready to leave the clinic?
More than ready.
Before we leave, I will talk to Sips, or whatever her name is.
Raccoon?
Raccoon, yeah.
Yes.
A bit like
She's very much ready. She's like at this point kind of like still visibly agitated about the entire situation.
Well, as I said, I will inform Raccoon that I'm guessing the other Lucian seems to find you a bit cute.
Lucian immediately snaps. That's not his name.
Don't care if he finds me cute. Couldn't even pronounce the goblin words right.
Come on. Well,
It was a very bad hiss.
Lucian begins to pace as she does when she gets nervous.
I didn't like him.
And Gil's just gonna take Lucian, and we're gonna head back to the bar, which is
All right.
tavern.
You guys make your way downstairs, head out the doors of the clinic, and as you go and start making your way back towards Nortwick, silent and processing what had happened in the clinic, our view pans back into the interior of the clinic, where Lucifer's magical eye trails as you guys head towards Nortwick's, never losing sight of you. And that's where we're going to end tonight's session.
I'm like, right.
I was gonna have Raccoon be like, she was looking at Lucian like she was prey. It was not good.
Any thoughts before we end the stream?
Oh my god.
Just
yeah.
I've never disliked a character
Yeah.
more.
That'll do it.
let's go.
Like, I have no words right now. Like, wow.
I should have just stabbed you with my greatsword while I had the chance.
I feel like the feeling was kind of mutual, though, between Lucifer and the whole party wanting to, like, kill him, and he'd be like, I have you, or I want you, anything, and he's, like, throwing in your face.
I don't know.
Yeah, and Raccoon was like, I am tiny protector.
So how much gold did I filch off?
Yeah,
of
they
my-
have
Oh my god.
Yes, since Zephyr has not yet reclaimed it from you, you have successfully taken 100 gold from Zephyr's inventory.
Damn, boy.
Not bad.
Yeah, a little under
Damn.
half, so.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks everyone so much for watching. Thanks all of you so much for playing. It is, as always, an amazing pleasure DMing for you guys. I was excited for this reveal.
Literally crying.
Listen, I wasn't expecting it to be so soon, like after like Raccoon like learning about this person, and then
Yeah.
suddenly he's just there, and
Ellen
it's like,
trusted me
oh,
with it, so.
Okay, I think it's time for Lucian to kind of open up to Zephyr if she wants him on her side.
Yeah. So, Lucian, your brother, who has been following you since Perha, is not only in the city, has taken your name and your father's name, is attending the ball, and is apparently a close patient of Zephyr's associate, Dr. Wattson.
Oh goodness, the fucker probably showed up in your carriage.
It is a day and a half before the summer ball. Lots going on. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'll see you all next week.